we have Richard Denning with us with his other hat on. We've got your Medusa Games hat on, Richard.
Yep,
Yeah.
Yes. Changed my shirt this morning.
Richard, welcome to your show.
Well, thank you. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, we have a number of games, Richard, that we're going to have a chat about. And we're going to kick off with the Great Fire of London and a two-player expansion.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Great Fire is 10 years old this year. It's crazy. There's been 10 years ago, 2010, we released the original Great Fire. And actually, it was a very, very successful launch at Essen back then. And had quite a buzz around it at the time. And it's interesting now, 10 years on, that there's quite a few fans out there of Great Fire of London, but an awful lot of new people who haven't come across it before. And when we first launched Great Fire, we found that there was no particular demand for two-player versions of games in 10 years ago. So the game was 3 to 6 players, and that was fine. And works well in that. You've seen there screenshots of the Tabletopia version coming up there, and in the physical game, I should say, as an aside, these little bread things are actually red fire cones.
Yeah,
which are the fire, but for this conversion, we had to do a few little adaptations to make it work in Tabletopia. But anyway, so Great Fire came out 10 years ago, but as a 3 to 6 player game. And over the last 2 or 3 years, however, we have had quite a lot of requests for, is there a 2-player, or even is there a solo version of Great Fire? So that was really where we thought, well, okay, can we make a game work in 2 players? Potentially then as an extension to that as a 1-player, as a solo game, which is obviously becoming quite a common feature request these days, isn't it, in games? So, you're seeing there the board laid out for Great Fire, and normally players are controlling the fire by playing these wind cards that moves the fire in different directions, north, south, east, and west. You're trying to protect your houses. You're also trying to protect certain locations around London, which are secret to you and known to you. And in multiplayer games, you might have the same objective as somebody else, and there's a certain amount of trying to work out what everyone's objectives are. So that's the basic idea of Great Fire. Now, this 2-player expansion, which is a little pack of cards there, 30 cards, brings in a sort of AI mechanic to the game that will drive the fire out of player control. So what we needed to do is have something that was happening between player turns, really, that the game had developed in that time period.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can find, there's a shot there we've got of a sort of screenshot of a Tabletopia layout of the 2-player game. It's
top down, side on.
It's sort of from flat down, looking straight down onto it from the sort of face downwards onto it, rather angled. So what we're I'm trying to think. There you go. That's the one. That's the one. So what we did is I've taken a quick screenshot of almost like the key bits for the 2-player expansion.
Yes.
Okay. So what you got here is imagine that we're playing a game and players are doing their turns, and then between the player turns, there's this non-player turn that happens. So there's a little prop card there, which is the blue thing. But what it will say basically is, first of all, turn over a wind card, and we see it's a blue wind card that basically talks about a northerly direction. So there are these little coloured arrows on the map. So that means that when you play that card as a player, you're going to be able to move the fire northwards along the blue arrows, or sometimes those little crisscross arrows also allows a northeast move and a northwest move, if you're with me. But this is telling us that the fire is going to expand on this non-player turn northwards. Okay. But where's it going to go? There's various potential possibilities that it could go into northwards from where it is. It's already expanded into a couple of spaces, you can see there. So there's probably about 10 or 12 potential spaces that could be going north there. So what we do is we turn over a card which is off to the right of that wind direction card. If you can just sort of move over to the right slightly. And this card that's coming into view, you see the one with the little yellow house on there? This one tells us that we're going to attempt to burn a yellow house if we can do.
Yeah.
So if we look back at the board a moment, we'll find that we have to consider, are there any yellow houses that we can burn, or is there more than one? And just there, you've got the Royal Exchange. I think if you zoom up slightly, I think you'll find there's a yellow house there, I think, and I think there's another space with a yellow house in there. So, okay, there's a few places that could be burnt down. So then the rules basically go that you say, well, burn the most yellow houses. If there's still a tie, we look back at that card and we go to the next house colour along, and we say, okay, what of the tied spaces would burn the most of that next colour, which will be an orange. Okay, and when we consider that, we realise the Royal Exchange is going to be the one that will then burn down.
Because it has a yellow and an orange.
Because it's got a yellow followed by an orange. Okay, so this is the kind of AI mechanic that drives the fire on out of player control. Now, if there's an equal situation where there's no tie break, it's player choice. The person who just played their turn chooses, rather than the person who's coming up, as it were. So that's that phase. So now the fire's moved, and now what happens is the firefighters have to be moved around in a slightly chaotic way that will cause problems to the players. So we turn over another card. So over on the right-hand side, there's a brown, green backed card there, and we turn it over, and it says Bread Street, I think. So what we do is we say the two nearest firefighters to Bread Street are going to move in the direction of the wind card that we started turning over, which is northwards, if you recall. So if we zoom over to the left there, we'll find Bread Street off to the left of Pudding Lane, where all the fire is. It's that couple of spaces to the left of where you are right now is Bread Street, and there's a couple of firefighters quite close to there. So they're obviously the closest, and they'll move northwards in such a way that, if possible, they'll jump into firefighting mode and jump onto a fire. So our dude there will go northwest and start doing his bit to save London. The firefighter to the north of him will be going northwards, and there's no fire cones in there. So, but he would go into the space with the most houses, which is Guildhall. So he'll run into Guildhall and try and do his best to protect Guildhall. So this mechanic allows the stuff to happen between player turns. So then the next player plays their turn, and then another non-player turn, and so on and so forth through the game. So it means that some of the time, by the time your next turn comes round, there's been a non-player turn, a player turn, another non-player turn, and now you're on again. And so there's quite a change the flow of the fire, and you've got to react to that dynamic. And we think that probably with a bit of thought, which I didn't have time for the last 10 weeks in the expo, we can probably release a little free download on Board Game Geek or something, and on our website, of a solo version where you're basically trying to save as much of London as you can against certain point breaks or something like that that'll tell you how well you've done. So we'll look at that in the next few weeks and come back to that.
And are folks able to actually jump into Tabletop Simulator and Tabletopia now and actually give this a go?
Yeah, it's on Tabletopia.
Okay,
we're doing demos. So come to the Medusa stand in the hall today. They'll be very happy to run you a demo of either the full multiplayer version or two-player version. We can do either, or it's on Tabletopia for free, and it will be. It's not on the premium one, so it'll be free going forward. So you can have a crack at it then. And obviously, if you like real world games, physical games, the actual game has lots and lots of nice wooden houses and or fire cones and so on. Just quite a tactile game in that sense as well. A beautiful artwork by Andreas Bresch, who's an Austrian artist. Have a look at it.
Yeah, so we're just having a look at the virtual stand. So, guys, if you head across to Medusa Games, you can join their Discord, check out their Twitch, and even chat with them directly from their virtual stand. We have the demos listed, so we still have demos taking place between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. today for Great Fire, Magnificent Flying Machines, and 9 World demos are going to be taking place between 10 and 3. And if you want to get a quick look at some of the overview videos that they have, these great ones, each game in 8 minutes or less. So there's a challenge.
That's the challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm loving that. It's a great piece of history to bring to a board game. Going further back in time, you have 9 Worlds. So the Creatures and Monsters expansion.
Yep. So this is hopefully a release coming up, we hope, next year. Would have potentially been an Essen release this year had we been on a different version of reality.
Yeah.
So Nine Worlds came out 2016, I'm thinking. Anyway, a few years ago now. And we then released an expansion to Nine Worlds. So Nine Worlds, if people who don't know about it, is an area control Viking Norse mythology themed game where you are essentially trying to take control of as many of the 9 worlds from Norse mythology, Germanic mythology as possible. So Midgard, Vanaheim, Jotunheim, all the worlds that tend to pop up in the Marvel movies. Times. But there we go. There's the board. So it's very so you can see it's in some ways an abstract looking game. It's basically taken an idea from a lot of Viking board games in some fashion. We've gone for a bit of that, but also bringing in obviously modern board game kind of elements, the nice artwork on there and things. And so there are 9 worlds. You are represented by an avatar, which is one of these sort of like Lewis style chess pawny type things, and usually little glass stones, we call them, for army pieces. In the Tabletopia adaptation, obviously we've got these little discs. So they represent your armies, and you're basically a god or a ruler. So if you're Midgard, you'll be Beowulf. If you're what is it now, Asgard, you'll be Odin, and so on. So you're moving around the world. You're trying to take control, area control. There's no luck at all in 9 worlds. It's all, you have 8 or 7 or 6 action points a turn, depending on the number of players. You're just moving stones between worlds, moving avatars between worlds in order to get majority control. And then you're using the powers that are linked to those worlds, assuming you can get control of them, to do stuff like steal other people's stones, destroy other people's stones, swap stones between worlds, all in an effort to try and get majority control when we come to the scoring rounds. Okay, so that's the base game. 2 years ago, we released Sagas and Treasures, which brings in essentially I don't think I actually got any images on there for that, but it basically is the treasures of the gods, so Thor's hammer, that sort of thing, which all have little powers in the game. So with Thor's hammer, you can knock an opponent's stone out of the world that you're in, for example, if your avatar is in, and the Sagas bit is hidden objectives, a bit like risk objectives, So it'll say something like have the most stones in such a place, or that kind of thing. So that was that expansion, and that brings in a bit more. Again, more of the theme of the game. A nice little artwork with that. This is our prototype on Tabletopia. You can't play this yourself on Tabletopia, but you could get in touch with us if you fancy to go sometime at a playtest. So what you've got here is the game set up as it would be normally, with all the nice proper components. And then off to the side here, we've got these prototype bits. I'm going to show some. We can show some art in a minute, but if we stick with this for a second. So the monsters bit is the creatures and monsters are these cards here. So what these are additional things you've got to contest with in this fight to dominate the 9 worlds. So now you're not going to only think about trying to control the most worlds, but also the monsters themselves are a threat and a potential source of advantages. So in terms of a threat, if they're not dealt with by the time you get round to the scoring rounds, then the people who have done the least to contribute to the fight will take the penalty tokens, which are these red tokens on the right side, which might mean you have to take a stone off a world that you're on, or a stone will get sent back to your player card, or something bad will happen, shall I say. And that will be suffered. The consequences are suffered by the people who haven't attempted to deal with that. So you've got to be like nice, Norse Viking heroism here and rally to the fight. So, and if you're not doing that, you suffer consequences. So, assuming the monsters are dealt with, then there are prizes, as it were, benefits, which are the other tokens. So, when I talk about dealing with them, you can spend action points in the game rather than moving stones between worlds and that sort of thing. You can spend those to move stones to the muster point, which is going to be like a Mead Hall sort of artwork thing. There's actually a card on there with a sketch of it, and on the plate on the board there, one of those was like the muster point at the bottom left there. And that'll be nice, colourful art of a sort of Viking Mead Hall It's actually upside down there, isn't it? But you get the idea, I think. So, and then the idea is you can move your stones to there, and then in the monster phase, all the assembled warriors are placed in player order onto the monsters.
Yeah.
So all of those, and you can see some of the art here that's going to be on these monster cards when the time comes. All very Norse mythology and so on, Germanic mythology sort of themed stuff. So if you can zoom in as well as you can on one of the monsters, we'll just quickly talk through a card. So these cards have little spaces on them. Yeah. So the Fossagrim here has got 5 red circles on them at the moment.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is prototype art. All this will be worked on. But the idea is that you drop your stones in player order onto these various cards, and whoever has, when you get to the resolution, if those are all filled up, whoever's got the most stones on there gets to keep the card, and they're worth monster points, which are top left, those little jaw symbols. We'll decide on what icon we've got eventually. But also we'll get first dibs at the prizes, if you like, the rewards.
Yeah.
And also some of the cards, not the Fossagrim one, but others have little powers in the top right-hand corner, which you get to use in the game. So you've defeated the monster and you bring them into your army, if you like, and get to use its powers. So they're the Valkyries, have a little Valkyrie power, which in the main game, whenever stones fall in battle, if you've won the battle, they go to Valhalla, and as the heroic dead, and they score you extra points. And with that power, they actually score you bonus points. So you can play a strategy of getting the Valkyrie and then trying to win the battles and then getting benefits that way, sort of thing. Yeah. Okay, so that's basically the gist of it. And if there's a tie for stones, it's whoever's in first, the furthest left on the lines of things. So you're looking at each other to sort of work out who's going to get control of what and placing things and all this sort of stuff. And some of the benefits, the rewards are free battle stones, which means you get to move a stone for free onto there. You don't have to spend points in the game.
Yeah.
And in that kind of resolution phase, when we get to it, we say, okay, are any cards full? Yep, okay, let's deal with them. That means let's divvy out the rewards. You get to keep the card. Are any not defeated? In which case, let's sort out what happens to the penalties.
Yeah.
Now then, the stones that are on the cards. Those little red symbols had little symbols in, or little characters, either V's or 9s or that sort of thing. Now, what they refer to, and these will be icons, obviously, in the final thing. But that means that when the stones come off the monster, when the monster's finally defeated or not defeated, the stones, if you beat the monster, will go to either 9 means choose one of the 9 worlds to put the stone on. Yeah, so the army comes back from the battle and goes back to one of the worlds. Yeah. Or H means put a stone on your home world. And C means onto your card, and R back into your reserve.
Yes.
Okay. And there's some of the nastier monsters have a H here. I don't know if these do, but that come out in the sort of later part of the game. H means Helheim, which means that in order to defeat the monster, some of the stones are going to have to go to Helheim, which is at minus points in the game. So you're suffering for the fight, as it were. You're taking a hit for the team, sort of thing, to try and defeat the monster.
Yeah.
So essentially, that's it. So in the game, there are going to be something like I think it is 16 monsters in two sets of 8. So at the start of the game, we'll deal out, depending on the number of players, 3 cards or 4 cards, and then in the scoring round 3, we then see whether or not where we are with the monsters.
Yeah.
If any get defeated before, then you deal with them as that happens. But otherwise, when we get to round 3, we say, okay, let's see, are we has any been not defeated? And then we work out the penalties. And then we go to, at the start of turn 4, we bring out 3 more, and that lasts to the end of the game in a standard 6-turn game. And that's Creatures and Monsters. So we're aiming at the moment. We're playtesting it still, of course. Artwork is coming along, as we see there. And we're hoping to have this available, if the fates are good, and the gods shine upon us next expo, and or by Essen next year. So some point in the summer of next year would be the plan at this stage. This will be a box of cards about the size of probably the same size as the Tinker Tailor box, which is a Munchkin size box. To give an idea for those that might be more to. So it'll be big giant cards for the monsters, and then other bits and pieces that you need in there for tokens and things to generate the game. Play.
So you've been porting a number of games. Again, we're touching on COVID a lot during this weekend because it has had a massive impact. Medusa Games as well. You've been porting some of your games to Tabletopia. How have you found the experience of porting the games over?
In the end, I really quite enjoyed it. I mean, it was a steep learning curve. I mean, I hadn't heard of Tabletopia at all until some point in, I think it was early April, when we realised by then we'd announced the postponement of Expo, and we were starting to look, and we were thinking, are we going to be able to run at all this year? And if not, what do we do? And I come across a few of these virtual cons, one or two of the early ones, the Steve Jackson game one. In April, and we're starting to think, well, do we do something, which we ended up doing? And if we do, how on earth do people play games online, board games online? I've done a few as sort of like tablet versions of games, as many people have, but I've never done actually online gaming. I'd heard of Tabletop Simulator, but I hadn't heard of Board Game Arena or Tabletopia at that stage. And I had a quick look, and I just found Tabletopia's sort of interface. Actually, it's a bit of a learning curve. They've got a lot of helpful videos. I would say their support is brilliant. So basically, I sort of started fiddling around, and what you have to do is bring the artwork in. So if you're a publisher and you've got all the assets, you can import all your art. So that's a time-consuming process because you've got to bring in everything separately. So every bit of art has to be imported. Created as what's called an object. And those objects are then brought into the setups. So effectively, you're creating these setups for each number for varying player numbers. So that 9-wheel setup was set up as a 4-player game. 3-player game would look different because you've got to do each of those. But once the objects exist, you just sort of like going and saying, right, what do I need for this setup? Oh yeah, I need the board, I need the table, I need that backdrop, and so on. And so once you've done one conversion, then you know, okay, I know the process now and understand what I'm doing here now. So the first time through is a fairly steep learning curve, and I was struggling with in Great Fire. I remember I said we're using these like little cylinders rather than cones. That's because early on I thought, okay, I can bring. They've got all these sample bits. They've got sort of beeples. They've got houses, which is great for Great Fire because that's what we've got. So they've got all these bits, but what do I do about the fire cones because they've not got any cones? So I had a go at trying to make a 3D cone in something. I mean, one or two 3D rendering software type stuff. Brought it in, and they sort of laid on their side, so the cones would come in like that, like not rather than upright. And you sort of, so you think, well, I don't want you like that.
How do I reorient
stand up? and then eventually I discovered, and Googling around, that X, Y, and Z coordinates in the real world are not X, Y, and Z coordinates in computers. So the X and the Y and the Z axes are flipped in computers screens compared to the real world. You think, why on earth would you do that? Why would you not use what we're already using in things? You know.
But anyway, so then one programmer out there just laughing right now.
Yes, and then eventually, anyway, the cone business didn't work because in Great Fire you're sort of putting the firefighters are black cones that pop on the top of red wooden cones for the fire. A nice what we call the plop factor, because it basically literally you plop and everyone goes ooh as they realise that's how you show the fire's being fought and contained. It's nice, nice little element in the physical game. But we just couldn't get 3D cones that are hollow to interact with 3D cones that were solid. And then I got onto support and I said, okay, this thing's on its side, and anyway, I can't get the one to pop on the other. What do I do? And they looked at it and said, to be honest with you, you're just gonna have to abandon the cone idea and go with something else. But they walked me through it. So and the support people responded very, very quickly. So they would I'd fire off an email and it would usually back within a few hours. You'd think I'm not going to hear from these guys. And that was before we started speaking to them about doing the expo. And once we'd announced the Virtually Expo, they were they actually were on the email about a day or two later to say, oh, can we be involved? Can we what can we do, sort of thing. So they've been brilliant. So and I personally I prefer the tactile sort of 3-dimensional sandbox style gameplay to a computer simulator thing. Now, Board Game Arena is a great way to play to play games around the world with anyone, and you just go on and you get matched up with Fred from New York and you know, Alex from Russia or something, and you play your game of 7 Worlds in 10 minutes, and everybody pushes off. But it's not a very sort of interactive experience between the players necessarily. It can be if you make the effort, but a lot of the time you literally, there could be computer opponents for the interaction you have. Whereas in Tabletopia, you've got that interaction. So Board Game Arena is great for that, running a game, enforcing the rules. You don't need to know what you're doing. They'll tell you what you're doing, sort of thing. Tabletopia is great for, right, I know the game. I'm going to show you the game. Right, so you've got your little hand there in the board. You can see people's little hands moving around, as you've probably seen this when you did the Tabletopia talk through earlier on and things. And you can see that, and you can see their little green hand there, and you say, right, so if you just click on that house and pop it over here, and most of the demos start with people throwing pieces at each other and stuff like that, but eventually everyone calms down, and then I really think it's great because I think you can rotate, you know, you're rotating the table, and it feels like you're in around a real game to some extent. You know. And there's that slight thing about, okay, how do we get into that in-game environment? So you need to, you know, get online with them, so that, you know, you want to be talking to them ideally, or so there's that firstly matching up business, and obviously things like Discord are great for that, which is what we're encouraging people to do.
And Tabletopia have their link sharing and stuff as well for your games, which is fantastic.
And you share the links, and off you go, and you're in the thing. We've done, so on the Medusa stand, we've done really quite a lot of demos this weekend where people come on. Yesterday morning I had somebody sort of shuffle into the thing at about 9 o'clock in the morning and say, I quite like a demo, is that possible? And I said, oh, fine, what do you want to do? Great, fine, okay, let's go for it then. So you done one of these before? He said, no, I've been trying to plump up the courage to come and have a demo all last night. I decided I was going to do it, and so you used Tabletopia. No, this is the first one. I said, well, let's go for it then, and we walked him through it, and as a guest logging, because he hadn't got as far as setting up an account yet. And then I said, well, go off and get an account, because you've got free premium, what's it, for 6 days?
7 days.
7 days, I think, from Friday night, I think.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's 7 from when you click on it or 7 from the... Anyway, point is, you can play around with it this coming week, can't you? And
exactly.
And then see what you think. And I'm, you know, after the 2 hours, we took them through, and then it went on a lot longer demo than it should be, because we ended up just dashing about all sorts of things about online play and things. But that was good, and I think so. I'd like to encourage everyone to, you know, don't be afraid to go into people's stands, you know, and get that demo. They're waiting for you to do that. And honestly, just go into their chat channels and say, hello, I'd like a demo, please, and they'll sort it out. So don't try and work out how you get it to work. That's their job. You just got to go. You got to say, I'm here. Can I have a demo? Like you would in the real world, like you would walk up to a stand. You know. Anyway, so there we are. That's
which of your games did you port across then, Richard? Sorry? Which of your games did you port across to Tabletopia?
We've actually brought all 4 of the published games so far. So we've published so Great Fire was the first one I did at the start of this process. That's on there, and also with a 2-player expansion built into it, so you can play that. We've also ported in the Magnificent Flying Machines. That was quite a challenge, because flying machines are a lot of stuff. There's lots and lots of different counters, so all of those have been brought in as images. So it's a very busy table with flying machines, but oddly enough, it's been one of the more popular demos people have been asking for.
It is a beautiful game.
Yeah, so there we are. You get your little planes, they fly along the course, and I had to play around with how we do that. Do you have tokens that were 2D on the board, and eventually I found these little standee things option, which you could have the thing standing up like that, which is nice.
Yeah, and then applied your artwork to it.
Yeah, and this artwork is with the same artist, the artist that did 9 Worlds, which is Andre Schneider. He's Art of Andre. If you want to go and check his stand out, brilliant artist, really nice guy to work with. Actually lives in Essen. So he wandered up to the stand one year when I had a very early version of 9 Worlds, and showed me his Viking-themed artwork, which ended up and then eventually becoming the 9 Worlds artist. Anyway, so we've got flying machines on there. We've also got Tinker 9 Worlds as well, and then Tinker Tailor. Oddly enough, for the conversions, the one that's the most challenging, not in terms of manpower and work, time, but simply in gameplay, was actually Tinker Tailor. The Tinker Tailor is a light, simple card game. So, but there's the mechanic in it that becomes difficult. Is you're drafting cards. So you pick up that deck of roll cards. You can see the backs of at the bottom there. And if you say playing a 3-player game, this is set up 4. So you deal yourself 2 more cards and player. So 6 of these little blue-black cards there. And now you've got them in your hand, so you have to bring them into your hand in Tabletopia, which is easy enough. But also in your hand, you're gradually collecting these goods and money cards. And we found everything was getting a bit kind of... There's all these cards, and so like, endless amounts of them and things.
Yeah. So
that
basically, you need a two-hands functionality.
Yeah, so that's one thing I've actually said to them, guys. If you can bring in a two-hand mechanic here, where you can have a sort of one hand and another hand, they've got some hidden zone bit where you can put things on the table, like in a hidden zone thing, but it's quite a small hidden zone, and it doesn't, and so it didn't prove to be possible. And they've had their heads full of doing dozens and dozens of conversions in the last few weeks in the run up to these shows. So, but I did say, that'd be cool if they could bring in a two-hand thing where you can have a sort of place where your permanent stuff is, and then a sort of temporary bit where you're looking at the cards you're going to keep. And then you've got to hand those cards on to the player to your left. So now you've got to kind of put them back on the table, and they have to pick them up and take them. And so it actually becomes slightly more difficult than you think for a simple card game. But the other games actually work actually smoother in many ways on Tabletopia. But it works. You just have to be fair with it and things. And stuff.
So Richard, if I get you to talk a little bit about your future projects that you have coming up.
Yep. So we are working on another Great Fire. We're working actually on there was a Great Fire in Chicago, if you know your history,
right?
In the 1860s, and about the same amount of the city was destroyed by the fire. About the same amount, but it was similar sort of amount, and it goes north and along the Lake Michigan and all this sort of thing. So we're actually working on a map of that, which we've got in Tabletopia again in a playtest room. But we're trying to bring in some of the elements that make what was the difference between the Great Fire of London and the Great Fire of Chicago. And there's an interesting thing there, that there was these fire alarms, and a year before they got this award for the best firefighting mechanism in the world, which then failed on the night of the fire in Chicago. So what actually happens is, when there's a fire, shop owners have an alarm on the side of and a key to an alarm on the side of their shops. They go and unlock the alarm, go ding, 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 and a fire engine is diverted from the HQ, the fire office, to that signal. They can it's telegraph wires and things, so they can say Sector 27, okay? And then when another one comes in, they send 2 fire engines, and when a third time happens, every available fire engine goes. The problem was, on the night of the fire, the chap in charge was interpreting the signals coming in to the wrong sectors. So he kept on saying Sector 27, and other people were saying, I don't think it is, boss, I think it's Sector 38. No, 27, and they just send the fire engines to the wrong place. And it was only when the fire was so enormous that they could see it that they just started stuff that, will just drive the things there, and by then, too late. So we're trying to bring in that fire alarm mechanism into the game, so you can play alarm. There are alarm spots on the board, and you can go there and spend an action point, and firefighters will move towards you. And that could be a good thing, so you might be getting it towards the part you want it to be. But equally, it could be a bit bad for other people if the firefighters are moving away from where they would like them to be, right? Which brings in that kind of like, what are you going that way for? Come back, type mechanic. So we're working on that, and we'll see about that. That's still development stuff. I think a couple of years away or something. But but I think it's been something in our mind for a while, and now that Tabletopia was the thing that allowed me, hang on a minute, I just have to bring the map in. And I've already got the components from Great Fire on there. So now all I'm going to do is just bring in a separate few bits and pieces, and we got a game, and so we've already played a playthrough of it. Now it's about sort of the play testing and making sure that the fire can spread sufficiently challengingly. So they on the gameplay we did recently, they managed to contain most of it in the areas around where it broke out from. There's a fair amount of destruction, but it didn't sort of break out across the city as it does in Great Fire. So that obviously you're tweaking where the borders are between the districts, and we need another route through north there, so let's just make that a north route there, that sort of thing. So that requires quite a bit of adjustment.
Interesting one in from YouTube from a user called Big Chap. 1906 San Francisco could be cool. Apparently there was an earthquake as well as a huge fire.
Yep. So, and in fact, yes, people have suggested this before. Yes, I think the earthquake started the fire and things, somehow related like that. Also, there's Rome, I suppose. Great Fire Rome.
Of course.
And now you get to play Nero or something. I don't know.
Where basically you'll just sit back and watch it burn. Then.
So I think there's Great Fire itself, the mechanic in it, which I suppose is the bit that people say, what's the unique mechanic in it? Was probably the wind card type things, the way that moves the fire. was the thing that people, you're playing it to move the fire by we're going north and that'll move it north and various things like that. At the time, that was the thing. So it's very easy to bring those core mechanics into any other map. And now you're looking at what's unique about this fire and what happened in it that could be. So it's a little bit like the many lots of versions of Ticket to Ride. So the Ticket to Ride thing, the great thing about them is they're all got the same core game in there, haven't they? But there's something different about each one.
Yes.
And that's what makes each map challenging and interesting. So I think we'll have a look at that one. And obviously, someone suggested the Boston Great Molasses Flood.
That'll be our Jerry. But I mean, like your earthquake, you could use that to change the actual starting location of the fire. So at the start, there's the earthquake. A random area of your map goes on fire, and it starts from there, completely changing the tactics of your game. Could be fun.
Any other games in production?
So no, Justin's got to have credits now.
Yes.
And another ones we're working on. We've got a children's game, King of the Castle, which we're working on, which is based on the rhyme, I'm the King of the Castle, you're the Dirty Rascal. So you've got little steps, a 3D sort of type thing where you're trying to get to the top of the castle, have your 5 kids in the castle first before anyone else, and you get to it's a dice-driven game where you're choosing a dice that has an action on it. So it might be up, so you get to move up. It might be down, where you get to push somebody down. Switch, where you get to switch with someone, so you're dragging them by the legs down, where you take their place, and this sort of thing, and jump over somebody. So it's so that's just something we're working on. Again, that was something we actually had at Aircon. We had it on. I did a play test or 2 of it there before everything happened, and. The hill is the slightly challenging bit there to just get that 3-dimensional hill all done. But that's something that we're trying to do something that plays, but has enough interest in it for adults as well. So like a basic game that children can play with just knowing they're just trying to get to the top of the hill. But then some additional things that adults could see, like a more advanced version of the game, maybe. The final one, we're actually working on a Euro. So the one we haven't really got is in our lineup is a sort of what you might call true kind of Euro game. Where resource collection, action, driven type game. So the Oranges and Lemons, rhyme has inspired some idea for that we've got a prototype we're working on as well. So there's things in the pipeline. Some as with all publishers, you often have things that get onto a table, things get played, and then put on the shelf again and never see the light of day. So and we'll decide which of these works and which do we think is worth pursuing at this stage, especially Medusa itself is a relatively small indie. Obviously I have the advantage of also running the expo, which does help in that I can often do both things at once at shows, to the annoyance of Tony quite often, because so where are you? Get away from that stand. I need you over here. It's been those are the plans anyway at the moment. Some things in the pipeline.
Richard, look, thanks for joining us. I'm going to get you to put your UK Games Expo hat on for a moment. So, how is the show going?
I'm not changing my shirt, am I?
Yeah, can we? Is there anywhere you would like us to direct folk right now?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, the thing I'd like to say is that the life and soul of the expo has always been the visitors, very much in that community, but also the exhibitors, and it's those exhibitors coming to the show every year, the physical show, that help to make the show happen. About 2/3 of the money that actually pays for the show is actually exhibitors' money, exhibitor fee, and then there's obviously from the visitors, and so we need the exhibitors to have a bit of love and attention and things. So if you're there's all sorts of stuff happening at Virtually Expo. There's all these great streams. There's events going on. But don't neglect the opportunity to get into the trade hall and go around some of those stands. You get one of these. You get the badges for visiting potentially stands and also taking demos. So go and say hello to some of the exhibitors. This is a very weird way of doing a show, and what you find is people tentatively sometimes sneak into the Discord channel. And then when you say, "Oh, hi, Fred," they don't run away.
And you find me.
So it's really just say hello and just engage with people. Don't be afraid. Just go into people's stands if they've got like a Discord enabled or one of those chat links or something else. Just say hello, guys. Just coming by and see what's going on. They'll love it if they can have some interaction with you, because people have been. We've done as Medusa. We've done several streams ourselves, and we've done demos all the time, and because we've done all that stuff, we've actually had quite a lot of activity this weekend. And I think that's we felt that there's been certainly quite a lot of interaction, but I think some exhibitors haven't necessarily put a lot of our stuff on. So they're sitting there thinking, is anyone out there? And you think about it, how do they know there's anyone out there? It's only really if people go to the stand and then click through to them. So we haven't got easy mechanics for telling people how many times their stand has been clicked or anything like that to hand. The best way, guys, is to sort of make sure you're, as an exhibitor, that you've got a method for people to contact you. And which are these chat things, but as a visitor, you can do a lot of good by just going around and saying hello to some guys. Even if it's someone that you're just browsing their catalogue of, whatever it might be, miniatures, t-shirts, whatever. Doesn't hurt just to say hello, just having a quick look what you've got. It does help a lot. If they know you're there and that you care, as it were. So
guys, reach out. And that's what this weekend is all about. It's about us just connecting with one another, reminding everybody in the world that we're all still here. We might be separated, but we are all still here, and we are all still together. So if there are games that you're interested in, go and have a browse through that exhibitor hall, and anyone that you're interested in, just ping them a message. There's chat options and all sorts of options that you can use on their stand to reach out to them. But reach out to them, get a demo, and enjoy some gaming. Richard, thank you very much for joining us, mate. Absolute pleasure as always.